Welcome, sisters and brothers, to Praying Through the Psalter, a brief daily meditation upon the 150 prayer songs of the Bible. Today, on Devotional 57, we turn in our Bibles together to Psalm 58. Psalm 58. As we do so, I remind us of how we chiefly understand, interpret the Psalms. We say that they are the prayers of God to His people on earth. They become our prayers back to the Lord. Secondly, the Psalms teach us how to pray. And thirdly, every psalm is messianic. It reveals Jesus Christ. Psalm 58 is a psalm of David, but it's also a song, a prayer of the whole community. And it is a communal lament. And the lament in Psalm 58 is over corrupt judges and injustice in the world. And so the psalm, we can break down the psalm that's very laser focused on corrupt judges and injustice. We can break down the psalm into three basic parts. Verses 1 through 5 are the charges against these unjust judges. Verse 2, in your hearts you devise wrongs. Your hands deal out violence on the earth. And then in verses 6 through 9, we have a section of the psalm that's imprecatory, in which means that David, the psalmist, is praying that God would punish and make these unjust judges suffer. This is very strong language that David prays here in Psalm 58. Listen, there are seven ways, seven curses, if you will, that David prays against unjust judges. Verses 6 through 9. First, O God, break the teeth in their mouths. Secondly, tear out the fangs of the young lions, O Lord. Third, let them vanish like water that runs away. 4, when he aims his arrows, let them be blunted. 5, let them be like the snail that dissolves into slime. 6, like the stillborn child that never sees the sun. And the seventh curse in verse 9, sooner than your pots can feel the heat of thorns, whether green or ablaze, may he sweep them away. Psalm 58 may be difficult for us to pray because it is so particular, but it teaches us that God wants us to be particular against sin and injustice and unjust decisions. God hates injustice because God is a God of justice. So finally, the psalm ends with a recognition that one day unjust judges will find their reckoning when God, the Messiah, the judge, comes and judges the earth. Listen, verse 10, the righteous will rejoice when he sees vengeance. He will bathe his feet in the blood of the wicked. Mankind will say, surely there is a reward for the righteous. Surely there is a God who judges on earth. And so Psalm 58 teaches us that we are not to be caught up in injustice, that we are not to act like unjust judges, that it's really important for us to maintain a straight and righteous walk in faith, even as we lament the great injustices around us. Of course, the greatest injustice ever, the most unjust judgment ever rendered, was the judgment against Jesus Christ at his trial on the morning of his crucifixion. Jesus stood before Caiaphas and the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council, as we're told in Matthew chapter 26. He was being tossed between Pontius Pilate and the Jewish leaders. Remember, the rank and file Jews, thousands upon thousands believed in Jesus, but the officials around the temple, they're the ones that conspired with the Romans to crucify Jesus. And then Jesus is asked, if you are the Christ, the Son of God, tell us. And Jesus responds in Matthew 26, verse 64. You have said so, but I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Who then is the final judge? It is the Messiah, Jesus, the Messiah. He is the judge of the living and the dead. He will judge all corruption. He will judge all sin and evil. He will judge Satan. He will judge unjust justices. We know that in the end, God's judgment will come. In this meantime, let's make sure that we stay in the righteousness of Christ. Let us not be tempted to act like the unjust people act, but let us show them an example of living that would call them away from their unjust ways before it's too late, before the judge of all mankind comes, the Messiah, Jesus. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace.